Efe, a very beautiful lady, fair in complexion. Her fairness shone so bright that people always wondered if she was the true daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Esudwe. She is their third child, and both parents are brown-skinned, as are the rest of the children, except for Efe. People have always thought about how they had Efe because they remember Mrs. Esudwe always being sick during that period of her pregnancy and visiting the water to offer sacrifices, as they believed the gods of the water held remarkable healing. Efe is the smartest in her class. Efe wasn't just the smartest student in her class, she was also the most beautiful, with her long flowing hair, radiant light skin, and confident smile. She naturally drew attention wherever she went. The boys in her class couldn't help but notice her. Some tried to impress her by answering difficult questions in class, while others found excuses to ask for her help with homework just to spend a little more time with her. Efe is also very athletic and a great swimmer. She has female friends, but low-key, they were very jealous of her and wished to have what she had. It's like they were secretly competing with her, but she had always been in her lane. And with time, she realized that friends did not favor her, and so she did not put her mind to making friends, just keeping to herself. If she needed someone to communicate with, her siblings and parents were always there for her. She got a scholarship and went to the best university, finished and got a very good job. She was very happy with all her achievements. It wasn't long before men started coming for her hand in marriage. They came in their numbers and she turned lots of them down, but she accepted to marry David, a very handsome and caring man who always went out of his way to ensure she was always okay and had all she wanted. David is a renowned businessman in the town of Abo, and people knew him very well, as he was very big on textiles. David is very strict with business and has no time to mess around. When he was ready to settle down, he came across Efe when she came to the market to do her regular shopping, but needed help getting directions somewhere, and he helped her. Seeing how soft and meek she was in her words and the way she carried herself, he was sure he would make her his wife. And so a brief relationship ensued between them and was leading to marriage. The marriage preparation started, and not long after, they got married in a very wonderful occasion which consisted of family, friends, and well-wishers. The night of their wedding was a remarkable night. Efe was still a virgin, and the evidence bore the sheet after their encounter, which made David trust and believe in her more. Not long after, she started feeling unwell, and after she went to the hospital, it was discovered that she was with child. That joy knew no bound, and she couldn't wait to see her newborn baby. She got lots of congratulatory messages from friends, families, and well-wishers. People brought gifts, and both families were super excited and couldn't wait to see the child. She carried the pregnancy swiftly and smoothly. The day they had been waiting for came, and she went into labor. Her husband drove to the hospital, and when she got there, she was wheeled into the labor ward. After a few hours, a cry of a baby was heard, signaling the birth of that child. It was a handsome baby boy. The couple were so happy. They got discharged and went home. It was the second day, and Efe's mother had arrived to start Omugo duties. David's mom was also around as she happened to visit that period, but she left just after seeing the child, as something needed her urgent attention in the village, and so did her best for the new mother and child while they waited for Efe's mom, who was to come later that day. Efe's mom started her Omugo duties already. David was super happy as he is now a father and got all the necessary items to ensure his wife and child were well cared for. Efe fed her baby all through the night, and by morning, as she was still on her bed, her mother walked in so she could give the baby a bath, but met a tuber of yam. She screamed. She had never seen anything like this before. Efe, who was still sleeping, got up after hearing the scream and asked, "Mama, are you trying to wake my baby up?" She turned to Efe and said, "Where is our baby?" Efe sat up and said, "He is on his bed." Efe's mom gestured to her to come look at the crib, and behold, the sight Efe met left her shocked and short of words. She yelled, "Mama, where is my child?" Efe's mom said, "How would I know?" David, who was in the other room and was showering when all the noise was going on, came into the room, met a yam in his baby crib. Looking at Efe and her mom, already crying, he asked, "Mama Efe, where is the baby?" Efe said she was coming to ask him too, that this is what they met. The whole thing became a shock to them. Calls were made, they got the police involved, and an investigation began, as it was truly strange. Neighbors said no one went into their home or went out, as they would have known. They also put hands in searching. Maybe their baby had been stolen and replaced with a tuber of yam. Some said, "Well, what do you expect from an Obanje?" Meaning a witch. They often refer to her as a wise witch, and they wanted to see reasons to justify their calling. Efe and her husband wept bitterly. Neither could console themselves. David's parents were beyond shocked, especially his mom, who had seen the child before she left. They told them that they should heal from this, that a report will clarify better what happened. The report showed that no one left nor went into their home, that their baby missing is a mystery. Both parents urged the couple to move on and have more kids, that with that, it will help them recover faster, as it was almost a year and nothing yet. They both managed to pull themselves together, and with time, Efe became pregnant again. This time, she went to many prayer houses. They told her that it's a witch doing that she should ensure that no one has any reason to come close to her, not to even rub her belly while she is pregnant till she gives birth. Efe quit her job as she did not want to lose another. She avoided going out as she stayed indoors. Anything she needed, her husband bought as long as she remained indoors. They even opted to have a midwife come home to ensure she delivers at home, away from the hospital, so they can easily monitor her till she was ready to give birth. She only told close relations about her pregnancy, warning not to tell anyone. They had to employ a gate man, so he strictly watches their home and ensure that no suspicious person comes into their home. Everything was set for them, and they were ready to have their baby. When labor started, they called the midwife, who got ready and went to help deliver their baby. They set up around her as she was still in active labor. They helped her with her delivery, and not long after, she welcomed her beautiful baby girl. The cry of that new child brought David in, and he saw his beautiful baby and smiled. That night, David was sure not about to sleep, but some of the neighbors could hear the cry of a child coming from their home and began to wonder if they now have a new child, as whispers have it that Efe is pregnant again, and that was why they haven't seen her, as to some who said she had traveled overseas. Their parents were present, but they decided to spend the night to be sure everything was okay. Both families stayed up at night to watch the baby. Efe did not have time to even do anything much. By morning, their baby was fine and still in the crib. They were happy. David's parents had to leave to ensure there is enough space for everyone at home. When they left, Efe asked her husband to rest that night, as he hasn't slept since their daughter was born, but he declined and asked her to go to bed, as he would watch over them as they slept. When Efe nursed her daughter, instead of putting her in the crib, she wanted her daughter close to her, and so lay her beside her bed. And when it was morning, her mother came to take the child's bath, and lo and behold, she met the child had become a yam. David ran into the room and met the child, who had turned into a yam. After hearing their screams, he said, "What happened? When I checked on our baby, she was fine. What did you do to her?" She said nothing, that she kept the baby beside her so she can watch over her properly. He called her a liar. "I should have listened to my mom when she said you are a bitch. Nothing good comes from you." Efe was shocked and wondered what just came out of David's mouth. Efe said, "David, if no one knows me, you do. I don't have friends because of the many lies that have been told about me, but you are my friend. And how can you accuse me of harming a child I love so much? A child I gave up a high-paying job so I can secure her." He looked at her with nothing else to say and walked out of their home and wasn't seen for 5 days. Those days were horror. Neighbors heard and took turns to come sympathize with them, even though they were really there for the gossip. Her mother ensured she never left her daughter's side as she was very determined to get to the root of the matter. Efe became humiliated as anywhere she went, they mocked her for turning her baby to a yam. This hurt her very much. She cried and prayed to God to help her with this, as she was already losing her mind. One day she went to the chapel to pray and prayed till she slept. She hadn't seen her husband, and there were rumors flying around that he is with his girlfriend, as he did not want to stay in the same space with a woman who could turn their child into a yam. When she was in a trance, she saw a lady who walked up to her and in her trance and told her that everything would be okay. She got up from the chapel, cleaned her eyes and was ready to move on, even if it meant not being married to David anymore. As she was going home, she stumbled on the same woman she just saw as she went into a trance. And as she looked at her, she saw the lady was an evangelist who said she had a message for her from God. She said that she should invite her father and her in-laws, and she should call her husband, that there is an answer to her missing child, that she will come to their home next tomorrow morning and ensure that they are there. She asked the lady what she meant by that. She said that everything will be revealed when she comes, that she shouldn't be in a hurry, and she asked her to only tell them this and not say another word. She bade her goodbye and left. Efe left for her home, wondering what just happened. All she knew was that she was sure there is an answer to her prayer. She went to bed for the first time in a long time without crying. The next day, she picked up her phone and made the calls. She could feel how anxious they were on the line, and all promised to be at her place first thing in the morning the next day. Her husband, who usually ignores her call, for some reason picked that day and listened to what she said with no response. The next day came very swiftly and all were present. David's mom was in a rush to ask what happened to her children and how she had turned them to food. Efe just ignored her, keeping quiet while tears flowed down her face. Efe's mother warned the woman, which is David's mother, not to say such things to her daughter, please. David walked in and met his parents and quietly sat in their midst, observing everything happening without words to say. Efe looked at her husband with tears streaming down her face as she watched the man she loved acting strangely towards her, as he couldn't even look her in the face. Not long after, the lady who had met Efe walked in and said, "Peace be unto this house." And Efe greeted her and gestured her to sit down, which she did. David's mom asked Efe who she was, and she said it's the lady who will tell us what has been happening to the babies. They all sat, and she asked them to join her in prayers before they start. They all got up and she prayed. After that, they sat down. Evangelist Mary asked David's mom what she gained in destroying her husband's home. They all turned and looked at Mama David, who was already angry at this time. She asked the woman that if she did not have anything useful to say, she should leave. She smiled. She asked Mama David what she did with the placenta of the children which had been given to her. She said she buried it where it's meant to be. And besides, who told you about that? Efe looked at her mother-in-law suspiciously as she remembered how she had asked her to bring the placenta for her to bury. Evangelist Mary laughed and said, "You think we don't know you took it to your coven?" Mama David got up very angry and said, "Are you calling me a witch now? Stand up and get out." "Get out!" Mary kept laughing. Mama David turned to her son and said, "Will you sit there and watch this woman call your mother a witch and not all?" David looked at Efe and said, "You call this woman to try and turn the fact that you have turned our kids to yams, right? Well, I want her to leave." Evangelist Mary turned to Mama David and said, "If she doesn't confess, She will go mad for the rest of her life. She should confess now. Mama David looked at Evangelist Mary and seeing how serious she was, went down on her knees and said, "Yes, I did it. I'm sorry." David was meant to marry another lady from their coven, and when he married Efe, it spoils their plans, and so they asked her to always bring the placenta of the babies so none will survive. They all shouted as they were all shocked and confused and couldn't believe what had just come out from Mama David's mouth. Efe looked at her mother-in-law and said, "Mama, what did I ever do to you? You sacrificed your own flesh and blood. Because of what?" Efe was inconsolable. Her mother lacked what to say. Papa David could not believe he had been married to a witch and promised to go collect the bride price he had paid on her head. Her son was too shocked and couldn't believe his mother had been the one behind it all. He asked his mother to leave and never return, as she was dead to him. Efe's father asked Efe to go in and pack all her belongings, as they can't be associated with this type of family. David tried to beg her, but it was too late. Efe thanked Evangelist Mary and she took her leave, saying she has done what the Lord has asked her to do. Mama David started seeing her late grandchildren and started begging them that she is sorry, begging them to stop crying loud, and she left them and ran into the street as Efe emerged with her bag. David knelt down to beg her to stay. She looked at him and left him without saying a word. She went back home, and after a week of crying, she cleaned her eyes, dusted her CV, and applied for a job. It wasn't long before she got a good job. After all, she is very brilliant. David kept begging her too, but she bluntly refused, saying, "If you can't stand by me when the world is against me, you should not be by my side when the world isn't." She found it hard to even accept to date anyone, till she met a certain guy who was aware of all she went through. This time, she kept him in prayers, not wanting to make another mistake in a life partner, till she received confirmation from God, and they both courted and eventually got married, and he was so loving and caring, and they went on to have very beautiful kids and lived a happy life. The end. Lessons to be learned from this story. Ensure that the people you are getting married to, especially your in-laws, are in agreement with your union. Be very prayerful, not only in times of need and danger. Don't jump into conclusions without knowing the truth. You can also add what you have learned from this story. Also, click on this link to watch another interesting story from my folktale channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye! Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us, turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story, like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye!